I could imagine everybody said, okay, if I vote for her, can she bring Mardi Gras back to PA?
Well, and
Yo, welcome to the spot where the mics are hot. Every word we drop got flow like a shot. Got stories to tell and jokes that hit hard. Come join the fun, it's a brand new yard. We bring the vibes, the beats won't stop. Tune in now, we rise to the top. Laugh, cry, shout, feel every drop. This podcast here is cream of the crop.
Go. All right. What's up, guys? Welcome to another R to the J podcast. And if you guys have like what we're doing right now, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. It sure helps the channel grow. But with that being said, today we have a special guest. Today we have Charlotte Moses. How you doing, Charlotte?
I am doing well.
I'm glad you're able to come here because I know I tried to reach out to you like a couple months ago, a month ago through Facebook. But again, like tell everybody, check your guys' request a folder. A lot of those messages, if we're not friends, I might have reached out to you. So just look at that so that way I could get you guys in.
Wow, I missed that. I wish I had really known. I'm so glad for Zalima getting in touch with you and making it happen for us on today. I'm so excited to be here. Glad you're able to take me. I know you have a busy schedule, so thank you for working me
Oh,
in.
there's no problem. Anytime. That's why one thing I was thinking as well too. That's why I want to reach out to candidates or whatever, just bring them in so that way the viewers, my viewers, usually kind of locally, so get to know them, the candidates, and see they want to vote for them.
Yes, thank you so
So,
much.
or just let the people know why are you here.
Well, I am here to introduce myself to the community to let them know because you have various ways we do. We're doing door knocking and we're doing some phone calling, but unless you get that interpersonal connection and being able to talk with people one on one, they don't really know who you are, what you stand for.
Yes.
So I am so glad to have a podcast where I can just kind of be free to understand, so that everybody will know who I am and what I stand for in the city, and that I didn't just pop up in the city.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I always like to ask my guest, who is the guest? Where are you from? Are you from Southeast
Well,
Texas?
yes. Well, yes and no. I was born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana,
Okay.
and so when I was 5 years old, we moved to Port Arthur, and so at 5 years old, we came here, and I started elementary school at 6 at Wheatley Elementary School in Port Arthur. I lived actually in El Vesta. So I grew up in El Vesta, right a subsidiary of Port Acres,
Okay.
kind of across the railroad track there.
Okay. I never actually heard about that, Bill.
Yeah, it's right across the railroad track, right down the street from your house.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not far at all. So that's where I grew up on Willow Street over there.
Okay.
And so all my life I was there, and through high school, middle school, high school, did a whole lot of things. I ran track for Thomas Edison, and then ran track again for Thomas Jefferson, and so graduated high school in Port Arthur. Went to Lamar State College, graduated there with my associate degree, and then years later, after being married and having kids, I went back to get my bachelor's of theology and then a master's in theology. So kind of spent I would say my whole life here, but just wasn't born in Texas, so to speak.
Yeah. But Louisiana's kind of Texas, so pretty much.
We're tied in there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes, we
Yes.
are.
Yeah.
So,
So I'm guessing that all the viewers are saying, okay, why is Charlotte here?
well, I'm so glad you're to be here. First of all, Rovin, because and that's a good question. I have raised my family here. My husband has worked in the Port Arthur ISD for almost 40 years or more, and I've worked for the city of Port Arthur for 1988 up until 2007.
Oh, okay.
So there is where I got my start and interest of I'm running for mayor for the city of Port Arthur, but my beginning started a while back. So my beginning started in 1988
Oh,
in
wow.
Human Resources Department as an administrative clerk too, on the first floor of City Hall. I'm 25 years old.
And Port Arthur?
In
Is it?
Po- at-
Oh, wow.
at
So you
the
got a
city
lot of history
Port
here.
Arthur. And so that was, just life changing for me because I grew to on that job in that capacity of first starting off as a clerk, but then working my way up to over a span of years to human resource analyst and then deputy director of civil service.
Okay.
So I served there like 19 years, but I was interested in the politics of City Hall. You could see the politicians and the council members. And being in human resources, you had a really close working relationship with preparing documents for council and getting policy ready because they would directly be able to see our personnel policy, our drug and alcohol policy, our fire and police contracts, and all of that had to go through HR because that's where we prepared them. So it wasn't just a job for me; it was a career, and it was just everything I loved doing, helping people. My main job at the time when I first started was just a clerk. And then moving up, I was able to move into about 5 years in, I was able to move into hiring directly people that worked in service maintenance,
Mm-hmm.
skill craft, and then also professional jobs. I would their resume or application, I was the first point of contact.
Oh, okay.
And so I developed so many relationships during that time. And it was just amazing to see people that didn't have a job to actually come to the city and be able to see me so that I could help them refer them out to different departments so that they could get a job.
Mm-hmm.
And when they would get that job, the biggest joy was to see I got a job, you know. And that's a lifespan for some people because they came to the city and then they stayed 15 or 20 or 30 years. Some people are still there today that I was able to hire. So that's a blessing and a benefit and it was a joy for me to be able to help people. It was more of a ministry than a job.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really helped me. And I was able to know firsthand in HR, you get to know the names. You may not see a face, but when you work in HR, man, you remember those names because you're like, oh, you are so and so. Oh, you are so and so. So they knew me and I knew them just for the interaction when they came to be hired at the city. So it was just, and it still is today. That's my start.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it started for me in that office on the first floor, coming in as an admin clerk 2, and as I stated earlier, working my way up from an admin clerk 2 to a deputy director of civil service, which that person, I worked with the fire and police department, helping them in their contracts and helping them with their promotional exams and helping them do so much that I was almost connected to the fire and police department. We were very close. Mm-hmm. So if it had something happened or whatever happened, they would come to me, and I would be the person to get their civil service committee to review their files or review anything that was going on with the fire. So I was very interpersonal with the staff, the 755 employees at the time that the city had. So that's where my start, and then looking into the politics part of that. The political arena, working with council. And I was like, what do they do? So I was able to see the differences that personnel could make with the city council.
Mm-hmm. And all those council members and politics, they choose like what bills to pass or whatever for the
Well, it would
city?
be resolutions and ordinances.
Okay.
So if we wanted to pass a resolution, then HR would help to prepare most of those, and we would send them to legal for the city council. And so that's if there was anything to do with employees or anything to do with just about anything, it came first to HR, then it migrated its way to the council. Mm-hmm. And so that's how you learn, and that's how I was able to learn to appreciate city council members and the work that they do.
Yeah, but I'm sure it's probably a stressful job, trying to make sure that everything's kind of trying to get done right,
And I'm glad you said that because my boss was so picky. And at the time, I wasn't a good writer. And so he would always say, you write the memo yourself. And I'm thinking, no, this is going to city council. This can't be wrong. You've got to write this, for me or proof it or do something. And
Mm-hmm.
so he would come back and he said, no. You write it because it's coming from you.
Yeah.
So when it came from me, it gave me training in responding to people at a level by which not only you could communicate effectively I can talk a good game,
Mm-hmm.
but being able to write a good game is a whole nother ballpark.
Yeah, that's one reason. Like I started a podcast because I always kind of struggle a little bit with talking,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's why I decided, okay, let me just try this podcast as well too, so that way I can kind of articulate my words a little better.
Yes, it helps.
Yes.
And so he would always say, no, you write it because I want council to know that when you do this survey or you conduct a survey on what they're asking us to do, that this Charlotte Moses did the work. Harvey Robinson didn't do the work.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to make sure that my words were constructed. And of course, my degree is a legal secretary. So I should have known that, but I was not comfortable with writing. So he trained me by allowing me to write things on my own, to be able to write effectively. I could write a letter now at the drop of a hat and do what I need to do and communicate it effectively in writing using the right words. And I've helped a lot of people with legal issues that, as a legal secretary, to like somebody's like, who wrote that?
Mm-hmm.
But it's just training that started with me in 1990. And I think 88, probably by 1990, all the way up, I had to write my way through everything.
Mm-hmm.
By 1995, he would look at me and say, girl, you got it.
Yeah.
So
That is crazy enough because you say that because now the younger generation right now, they have this chat GPT where they could actually just tell it on the prompt, write me a letter of so and it chat GPT would just bring out a couple of paragraphs, whatever you want.
well, back then we didn't have chat GPT.
Yeah. So,
it was a red pen,
So-
and it would be scratch
Yeah,
all
so-
over
so
it, and then you look at it like, and then your heart would sink, like, man, I thought I had it, and he would go back and make sure you had the subject verb agreement and make sure you had all of your your I's dotted and your T's crossed, because it represented you, and it allowed me to take ownership of what I did and to be proud of it. So I'm glad there was no chat GPT back then.
yeah, no, I think it's going to hurt the children right now.
I think it will. I think it will. But because they won't know how to write without that component writing for it.
Yeah. Just like social media, they say, oh, it's you connecting with people, but in reality, people are more disconnected right now than ever
Because
before.
of social media.
Yep.
Because we don't sit down and have a conversation.
Exactly.
But so the city was that avenue for me that taught me to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw some things happening on the political side in probably about 2000. And so I started getting involved with some political things while I was at work. And so my boss would always tease me and say, girl, hey, you got to cool it on some of this stuff because you work for the city. Be careful in that. Because I wanted to know that arena, how it worked, what council members did, how this all came together. And so that gave me the platform by me getting involved early on, helped me to understand how the other side worked. And so that I got involved in some political things. And then I resigned from the city in 2007 because I always wanted my own business. And so in 2007, I had always prayed about opening some kind of business, whatever it was. And so we had an opportunity to open an at-risk school law academy, Love at Work. And I resigned from my job at the city in 2007. And so there I started a business, and it was like helping my husband with an after-school program for youth.
Okay.
And so that was in 2007, and I did that and then in that component of opening my business, I also added to that Global Drug and Alcohol, which was a drug testing company. And I knew that because of what I did at the city, because I drug tested employees. So I had the contacts, the people, and I knew how to make that business grow. So connected to the Love at Work Academy was Global Drug and Alcohol. So I did a nonprofit and a for-profit, and it was woman-owned.
Okay.
And so I had a 501c3, and then I had a woman-owned business, which was Hub certified.
Okay.
And so I put all those components. I did fingerprinting, twit cards, all of that. So I'm doing it. I'm doing the doggone thing, and I'm in love with it. And I'm thinking, man, how could I have ever? But if had the city not been there, I would never have known how to do what I knew how to do with businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So from 2007 to 2015, I had Love at Work Academy and Global Drug and Alcohol going with fingerprinting and twit cards and all of that, which I enjoyed tremendously.
Okay. So I don't know, probably a lot of the guests or viewers, I mean, it's saying, okay, that's how she got into politics, but they're saying, okay, why do you want to run for mayor?
I'm so glad you asked, because 2015, I ran for city council first. And so, let me back up. 2013, I got appointed to work with the Port Arthur Economic Development Corporation. And so I served on that board, which is the Port Arthur EDC, that's the 5% sales tax. And they had a board. They created a board with that 5% sales tax that actually allowed you to how to spend that 5% sales tax money. And so I was appointed to that board and served 2 years. And as I served, someone came and said, "Hey, would you be interested in running for city council?" And I thought, "Ooh, that sounds good," because I thought about it, and as I was working for the city, remember 1988 to 2007, and so here I am. I'm thinking, wow, this is an opportunity for me. And so, yes, so I got off of the board at the EDC, which was a short for Economic Development Corporation. And then I ran for city council in 2015. Four opponents, three men, one woman, and ended up in a runoff.
Oh, really? I know, just like this right
Just
now.
like this race.
The story of my life.
That's it. So 2015, I ran and won had the most votes going into the runoff. And then I had the runoff and, of course, won for the seat, which was an unexpired term for another council member. And then once I ran and then I ran again in 2017 for my own term, and I won. And then I ran again in 2020 for my last term, and I won.
Okay.
And so there comes the mayor. And this was an at-large seat. So 7.5 years I've served at large in the city of Port Arthur. Why wouldn't I run for mayor?
Yeah.
That becomes my question.
Yeah, you got a lot of experience. You know a lot of people. You know
Right.
how to deal with them, and
Working for
Yeah.
the city, understanding the policy and the procedures and how it flows,
Mhm.
and then coming back to serve on the EDC, which is economic growth for the city, causing things to grow that we see right now in Port Arthur, down the partnership with Lamar State College and CDL drivers, and then seeing the apartments that came up. All of that's EDC, but that work was done in 2013. You see the manifestation of it now, but it was growing back in 2013.
Mhm.
So we see it coming up, but before it came up, it was an idea. So you see the taxpayers' dollars at work in downtown Port Arthur. Look at the revitalization. People say, well, nothing's down there. Yes. Look at the EDC building, new building.
It takes time.
Look at Lamar State College. It's expanding. There's a partnership with the EDC and Lamar State College.
Even Memorial Drive, huh? They expanded it too, right?
That was that's totally city though, and
Okay.
that's under city council.
Okay.
And that was done in 2020. So, but the EDC helped to put into and pour back into Port Arthur. Our parks were upgraded. Homes were purchased on 5th and 6th Street with down payment assistance. So now you have life living downtown Port Arthur on 5th and 6th Street, between Savannah and all the way up, I think probably all the way up to, from Savannah, all the way up to almost Memorial.
Okay.
All of those new homes, and that about 35 new homes are there.
Okay.
So that's done with economic development dollars. And so I was a part of that. So when I got on council in 2015, of course, that was like I was saying, there was no money for streets. We knew that there was an issue with street repairs, but the key thing here, Rovin, is going back to look at what happened. When you look at what's currently going on, you got to always take a look back and see what happened or what didn't happen. So just think from 2000, remember I told you I got hired in 1988 at the city. So from 1988, I hired the guys to work summer programs to fill potholes for streets through CDBG dollars. Just think there was never a plan for streets reconstruction, rehab, or anything that would be done in that time. There was never a progressive plan. Anything you want to avoid, you put a plan in place for it. So if I'm aware, when I think now, and I knew I was a part of that. So from 1988 to 2007, up until I got back on council in 2015, think of the time that passed, and there was no streets. That's not to blame a council member or anyone there, but the ball dropped.
Yeah.
So in 2015, everybody's talking about streets. Then we had Harvey in 2017. That made it even worse.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So you still don't have money. You still don't have. We're looking at trying to develop a plan, trying to see what to make happen. So finally, 2020, we go after a bond that gives us $10 million a year for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And so now we have the money. 2020. November 19th, 2020. We're 2025. How many streets do you think we can viably get done in a 5-year span in a whole city that needs repairing?
Yeah. Luckily, they fixed my street. So,
Oh, I saw that.
Good job,
I
guys.
saw
Good
that.
job.
I saw that. So that your street is great.
Yeah.
But can you imagine if every street in Port Arthur was like your street?
It would be nice.
It would be nice. That's what we need to do. It takes time. We don't want to run past streets and really, because a street requires a lot of work.
Yes.
When they did your street, they had to go and call the gas company. You had to call Entergy. You had to call all of these people that work underneath your road before they could repair your road. You just can't go and put a pavement on top of a road. So
Long
all
process.
of that, you got to dig it all up. The drainage, you got to make sure all of that's valid and it's working properly. So you cannot have to, we've had to dig up several roads because we've rushed through the process. So it's going to take us some time, but I want everybody to know that it's going to take place. It will happen. You have staffing changes, you have weather holdups, you have so many things involved in why the process isn't happening. I'm not making excuses, I'm telling the truth.
Yeah.
Because that's what it takes. So that was one of the major things, and it's a major issue for all citizens. I don't care if you're black, white, Hispanic, purple, blue, or pink. They are worried about streets right now.
Yeah. Plus, the city is growing with all the businesses around coming up.
You have $64 billion worth of business coming to Port Arthur alone, just automatically. That's not business we have to go out and get. That's not businesses that we have to seek. That's businesses that are they're already committed to being in Port Arthur. So when you grow, you have growing pains. And the growing pains are what you see in traffic.
Yeah. Just like the Highway 73 right now.
Yeah. And people are upset. But, okay, so
It's going to take
do
time.
you want to
folks.
grow? Do you want to grow?
Yeah.
If you want to grow, growth comes with issues. It's like a family. When a family starts growing, you got more responsibilities. When you start having children, it's good when there's a husband and a wife. I've been married 41 years. And so listen, when you start growing, you add one child and then you add another one and then you add two more. Let me tell you something. The problems start coming. That's like Port Arthur. You start growing, we're adding. So the issues are going to come.
Yeah.
And so we have to learn how to work together and making sure that as they come, we grow with them. And we try our best to work on a unified, unilateral table to make all of them happen together. You can, as someone said, you can walk and chew gum at the same time. So that's the political background that I bring, the knowledge, the experience of working on council, the experience of working from the city, the writing ability to communicate effectively with new business owners. What I bring to the table is qualifications that can help Port Arthur, that can give us an image that we are not playing. We are serious about business. We're serious about our city, and that we want to see us get to the next level. We're no longer going to tolerate you coming in and treating us any kind of a way. We want the respect that is due us. And I think with someone at the helm that brings the qualifications and the skills and the knowledge that I bring to the table, then I can sit down with somebody and be assured that you're not coming to play with us. You're coming to deal, because you're not just dealing with anybody.
Yeah. I could imagine everybody said, okay, if I vote for her, can she bring Mardi Gras back to PA?
Well, and Ken, I'm glad you brought that up about Mardi Gras. We can't focus on those small things either, but it could be something that someone's concerned about. When we dealt with Mardi Gras, I was on the council when we dealt with Mardi Gras. And so they came to us and they said, hey, you got to stop all of your outside vendors from selling within a certain radius. So we're like, you're talking about like someone that lives next door to Lamar, Port Arthur, or someone that lives on Proctor Street, anyone beyond their gates. So their gates here.
Yes.
So anyone that lived between here and Memorial, they wanted us to stop them from selling in their front yard.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of hard right there.
You're a homeowner.
Yeah.
Mardi Gras coming down your street.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come as council. I'm gonna come take brother, and you can't sell no hot dogs outside. What you gonna tell me? I own this,
This is my house right here. I pay taxes.
and I'm gonna sell hot dogs, candy apples, popcorn, and anything else I can sell. So I couldn't prevent you from doing that. So that was one of the top issues and complaints that the city said, hey, we don't have jurisdiction to tell these people from this point to not sell in their front yards because it was killing their business inside of the gate.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. So if you come to the table and negotiate with us effectively, we can't control what's in the gate. You know, we can't tell people outside of that gate what to do. We'd love to have Mardi Gras come to Port Arthur. We would love to have them back downtown, but let's be reasonable.
Yeah. Because when it was in Beaumont, I went there a couple of times on downtown Beaumont. It was okay. It was the same vibe or whatever. But I didn't even bother going to when it was at Ford Park. I heard it wasn't that great.
Yeah.
It was not the same.
I would love to have them come back, but come back with a reasonable condition by which we can help our citizens gain and Mardi Gras can grow at the same time. So that we can have a collaborative effort to move our city in a place where we can work on one accord. Let's not try to stifle someone else because you want to grow. That's a one-sided issue. Let's make sure that everybody can work together and make it work for everybody. And I think that we can bring that to the table, but we've got to be able to you got to be reasonable and we got to want to know how to work together and make it a collaborative effort.
Yeah. So who do you think inspired you to actually go into politics? Or you just kind of fell in it?
Well, I didn't just fall into it. Basically, I watched a lot of people work, but if I had to have an inspiration, it was Mayor Bobby Prince.
Bobby Prince?
Yeah, she was Mayor of Port Arthur.
Okay. And what year?
Oh gosh, in '88 when I was at the city, probably
okay.
89, 90, and maybe because she served 2 terms. So in that time frame while I worked for the city, I would always just watch her flow and watch her move. And I was like, man, I don't know. I don't think I ever said I want to be like her, but I was inspired by her presentation. I was inspired that she was a woman and that she was mayor and that she was helpful in her capacity as mayor. You would always see her making things for the city employees or doing things to help people one block at a time, cleaning up the city. So I was inspired by her efforts to move and navigate within the city and still, do what she was doing. But she looked so smooth at getting it done. I was like, wow, this is awesome. So I watched her and thought she was just really awesome. So yeah, but I would say it was Bobby Prince.
Yeah. So City of Port Arthur has a history of actually having a female mayor.
Well, prior to her, I think it was Oscar Ortiz, and prior to him, it was Mary Ellen Summerlin. And I remember her. So Mary Ellen Summerlin was probably when I came in '88. She was there. Then Oscar Ortiz served, and then Bobby Prince served, and then I think Derek Freeman served. So yeah, they've had two women that I've known.
Okay.
Mary Ellen Summerlin, and then Bobby Prince. Since in my tenure, in my time from at the city.
Yeah, and does it show you that women could actually do this role as well too? It doesn't just have
yes,
to be
it does. Yeah, it really does, and it inspires me to see how effective they are.
Yeah,
but without having the masculinity, still holding on to the femininity, and then knowing how they can flow in it and just make it look like we got this together.
Yeah, I think that's one thing is you can make it seem like you're all together, and you kind of are logical as well too. Like make sure one thing
and hearing people, understanding people, because as the mayor, the mayor's role at the city of Port Arthur, it's not the city managers. I'm not managing the city or anybody who holds that position as mayor. You're actually your voice is for the community. You're an advocate for the community. So you're there making sure that you are maybe presenting proclamations to people because it's their 90th birthday, or you're there to voice the concern that my constituents are as the mayor. I'm the voice for the people. But the manager, it's run by the city manager. So we have a form of government where the city manager manages, but he answers to the council and the mayor, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So I'm not running the city's day-to-day activities, but I know that you have to make sure you know the charter. And actually, the mayor and council has to get permission from the city manager to even talk to a city staff worker. You just can't go up to a staff worker and just start talking. You got to, talk to the manager, get clearance, and make sure it's okay. And that's per our city charter. which is our governing charter that states that the council and mayor have don't have any jurisdiction over the staff. But we always you're not permitted from saying, hi, Rob, how are you doing? What's going on? But to go, hey, go fix that street over there. Go do. No, you don't do that.
Yeah.
You got to talk to the city manager, ask for a meeting with him. Said, hey, I see an issue in streets. I see an issue in public works or water. Do you mind if we have a conversation with the drainage department today? And he calls them in and say, hey, the mayor's got an issue with the council or got an issue with a citizen has an issue on 999 5th Street. And then you call them and say, hey, I need to see how we can get this resolved. So I'm the advocate for the citizen to make sure what their voice is being heard and not ignored.
Okay.
Does that make that's kind of makes it clearer for our audience to understand and to make sure they're clear on knowing, well, why hadn't she done this or why hadn't she done this or why hadn't that been done? A lot of the times it's the jurisdiction. I don't have jurisdiction over that, or anybody that's mayor doesn't have jurisdiction over that.
I know one big topic that came up in this neighborhood. I talked to a couple of my neighbors that we got sent out our property tax value, and it's skyrocketed like 30%.
Everybody.
Yeah, it's like, wow, that's ridiculous.
But that is actually with the county.
Yeah, it's county.
County.
Yeah, it's county.
Yes, not me.
Yeah, it's, like,
Not us.
it's not her, guys. All right, don't
Not
blame her.
me. Yeah, so don't blame me.
If she can, she wouldn't want you guys to pay that much taxes.
I wouldn't dare want you to pay that much taxes. I'd like for you to appeal.
I'm gonna protest it.
That's what you know. It just go to your bill.
We're all protesting right now.
But think about it, Robin. If you protest it, when people Google our property values in Port Arthur, think about this. So you protested, say I'm paying too much. So it's an oxymoron, because what happens now is when people Google our city and they see the median property. That's why we stay on the low to median income level, because when we protest it, we try to drop that value down. So how can we ever attract people to come to our city? And because you've lowered your property tax and your home, what your value is of your home, because that goes down, the property tax is based on the value. So you lower that, your home is worth 150, 300,000, 300, let's say that. Yeah. And you appeal that and you get it dropped down to 250, 100,000. So now if everybody does that, so think about it, when people Google homes in Port Arthur on the internet and they said, oh, the property value over there is so low, because that's what's substantiating and driving people to come to Port Arthur is how high, where those values are. Yeah. So if you everybody appeals those values and we get lower value, then you say, why Port Arthur's horrible. I don't want to live there. I don't want to come there. Because we keep appealing it and you drop your value down, now we're not worth anything.
Well, maybe if they could raise up the value of the property, but where the people don't have to pay the extra
Can't
increase.
do that. They go together, Rob. You can't do that.
Like,
No. One can't go without
especially
the other.
if it's your homestead house. You know what I mean?
Then you have that homestead exemption where you're exempt if you're taking that homestead exemption. And so then you're able to keep your value, but you're exempt. Texas and Port Arthur offers that homestead exemption. Other cities don't offer that. I was about to name the cities, but I can't tell you that on here. But there are some cities that don't have, doesn't have the homestead.
Oh, okay.
So Port Arthur does, and so as long as you have it, you're getting an exemption here.
Okay. Well, I guess I gotta do my research on that to see how much actually I'm getting a discount. I guess since it's my homestead.
But Port, I'm glad that the value of homes are going up. I'm a realtor now.
Oh, okay.
So went back and got my real estate license in 2020. And so I love what I get to do with real estate. I love Port Arthur, period. So I'm so thankful that when I started in real estate in 2020 and sold a couple of homes in November and then December of 2020.
Well, that one, the interest rates was low too, huh?
You know it.
I know it.
But homes were low. Homes were not as expensive as they are right now. And our property values, homes were not worth a per square foot what we're getting today per square foot. So I was thankful that I would have been a part of getting those comps up in Port Arthur. And right now the proof is my someone just got an agent intel and said that I was in the top 20% of realtors working on the buyer side in Port Arthur. So I can give you that information. and let you know that I'm serious about what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at those homes that are sold, back then they were only sold, we were only getting $80 a square foot for a home. Today, if we sold a house in this area, even in this area, you can get over 100 and maybe $20 a square foot for a home.
Yeah.
So the value of homes in Port Arthur are competitive enough that we are outshining surrounding cities and people buying homes in our city. And that's good for us because we want to outweigh the low income. We want to outweigh the low income. There's nothing wrong with low income homes or low income apartments, but we don't want that to be the narrative of our city
Mm-hmm.
because what was happening before 2020 is that the narrative was you don't want to move to Port Arthur because of the Section 8 housing and because we've flourished and had 14 different housing places that were not Section 8. So we want to change that narrative, and we want to be able to have people come into our city that are buying homes, that are buying and staying in our city, and that we've changing the trajectory of low income. And so now we can see prosperity. So as it rises, it helps all of our value to go up. So we don't want to kill that thing. You want to make sure that it grows and that it's setting a trend whereby we are lifting the prices. And when people Google us in Port Arthur, they'll say, man, the property value in Port Arthur is amazing. Would you want to Google Baytown or Google Sugar Land and they tell you the property values were low? You ain't going to move there.
That's true. That's facts right there.
You're not going to go. So why would we want to keep Port Arthur in that same stringent place? No, I want to see us by becoming a realtor and doing what I am doing. It is investing in the future of the city so that we can get fair market value and we can get people to the next level in our cities. We can't do it. You do it one house at a time. You do it one block at a time. You do it one street at a time. You do it at one level so people can see that we are serious about it. Don't come to Port Arthur thinking you're gonna get some Band-Aid put on our city and you look over us and try to disrespect us. No, we want to be at a place where we can be counted upon and they can see that trajectory is changing. We want to reflect $64 billion a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially with all the extra income coming in from those jobs too. Should help out the people.
Let it stay here.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to fight for that. So that's how I got into politics. I don't know if I get excited about Port Arthur. I'm sorry. I'm passionate about it. So I hope anybody don't take this wrong. I'm so sorry. But
you guys, she's very passionate, all right, guys?
I want to see it take place in my lifetime.
So I always like to ask my guests, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Well, Rovin, I hope that in 5 years, I've been able to make an impactful difference in Port Arthur.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be presumptuous, but I would love to see our city with the majority of their streets repaired. And I'd love to see some development on Pleasure Island. I'd love to see downtown with activities for families, and Motiva opening up with their business downtown as they collaborated with us in 2020 and took on the job of bringing their offices downtown Port Arthur. So I'd like to see some life walking up and down the street between Lamar State College and downtown Port Arthur with shops and coffee shops and people opening businesses there. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to see Port Arthur in a place where when they Google Port Arthur's name, it's going to say the best city in Texas.
Is Pleasure Island considered Port Arthur?
Yes, it is. Okay. Pleasure Island is Port Arthur.
Because I remember when I was younger, in my teens, in the 90s, I remember in Pleasure Island how big it used to be there for like Memorial Weekend, 4th of July. Yeah, I'm not sure it's even like that anymore like it used to be.
Well, it's not, but I believe it's coming back.
Okay, that's good because that's always kind of fun.
I think some things are going to take place there that we'll see a difference being made, hopefully in the next year. I'll see some progress, and then it'll build from that progress. And I don't want to go into detail, but I think that we're on the track to see some differences.
Yeah, that'd be something cool. Like if somebody could start events there, even something little, where it could gradually slow.
Yes, I think that's going to be a good start. I think what they're thinking of is a restaurant and then some boating and some kayaking. And those things are supposed to take place in the next 3 to 6 months.
Oh, okay.
So I'm looking forward to seeing some of these things just come to fruition. As I said, seeing Port Arthur flourish and seeing parks updated and upgraded for our children, seeing families and seeing some of the youth that have graduated from college being able to come to Port Arthur and find jobs, find families, buy a home here. And so hoping that we can see Jimmy Johnson open all the way up to 365 coming through where you can develop the properties on each side of the land. So that's what I see for Port Arthur. That's where I don't actually see myself personal. It's not about me, but actually seeing Port Arthur prosper. So I know you asked me what do I see myself, and I understood your question.
Yes.
In 5 years. But looking in hindsight at the future, I see Port Arthur more so than I see Charlotte. And I want to see our future blessed in this community. And I want to be able to see those things I just talked about. Pleasure Island, downtown Port Arthur, all the parks in Port Arthur upgraded. And in collaboration with the school district, seeing that new complex come to life. It's just, I think our future is so promising that it's almost like I could just taste it. So I'm looking
We're
forward
almost there.
to see. We're almost there. It's
Yeah.
like we're almost there. And it just seeing us reflect $64 billion, we're billionaires. We ought to be able to walk like billionaires, talk like billionaires, collaborate like billionaires, and embrace our city like we're billionaires.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to a
Yeah.
great.
Well, in this case, really, what I call I say 5 years, but in this case, it's actually 6 years because how we're talking behind the scenes that marriage, you could go 2 terms, and each term is 3 years, right? So
Yes,
six-
sir.
6 years altogether.
So it'll be 6 years. So hopefully at the end of that 5th year, when I'm getting ready to migrate out of there, if elected a second term, when elected a second, let me say that,
Yeah,
when
just
elected
when,
a
yeah.
second term.
Always think positive.
Yes,
Everything.
everything. So we'll see some of these things come and take place. I think we're on the cusp of some great things taking place in Port Arthur, changing the trajectory of what we are right now and getting to our future that's going to be brighter than ever.
Yeah. And when you become mayor,
Yes.
maybe I could go out there and interview you there after you've been there a year or two, whatever. And
Yes.
just,
I'd love to do that. I want you to mark it on your calendar and let's make it a date.
yeah. And I'll like I said, next time when you're there,
Yeah.
I'll go to you.
Come on over.
Yeah.
Come on over to my place.
But
Awesome.
you have any last words for the audience?
No, I like to. I do. And I'd like to thank you all for Rowan for inviting me in, Zalima for
Yes,
for
Zalima,
making
what's
this
up?
happen. That's my girl. And I'd like to say I am qualified. I do have the knowledge, and I want to be able to serve the citizens of Port Arthur. So I want you to vote number 2 on the ballot, Charlotte Moses. I want you to go out and get it done. So we say, let's get it done. I want to see you guys starting May 27th until June 3rd is early voting, and election day is going to be June 7th. So I'll see you at the polls.
Guys,
Thank you so much.
Mark those calendars, and I'll try to have this out maybe in a couple of days. So that way people could actually see it and make the choice.
Thank you.
Let you know, I'll probably end up kind of choose you because I like your vibe. I like how you articulate yourself. I see your vision, and I like that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me here.
No problem. All right, guys. You guys know what to do. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. It sure helps the channel grow. All right. Peace out.
Breaking news or cool interviews, we keep it real, no scripted cues. From wild debates to heartfelt tales, strap in tight, this train never derails. We bring the vibes, the beats won't stop. Tune in now, we rise to the top. Laugh, cry, shout, feel every drop. This podcast here is cream of